What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday night to you all. It is another Sunday night stream brought to you courtesy of the Romero channel here on YouTube. Uh, what's going on, everybody? That was a very professional intro. I'm getting there. Not as good as Grande yet, but I'll figure something out. But hope everybody's doing okay out there tonight. Doing a little stream here. We're going to be talking about a contest that I've got in the works for you guys, with a pretty sweet grand prize. I teased it earlier on my channel in the community section. Um, I'll just go ahead and spill the beans. Actually, I'll wait. I mean, I guess if you've probably seen it already, but so we're going to be doing a contest, a little bit of a contest. It is March, so immediately most people think of March Madness. I'll get into the details here in a little bit, but I will be having a contest, and the winner of this contest will receive the brand new Steelbook 4K / Blu-ray release of Creepshow, courtesy of Scream Factory. And this is a Walmart limited edition Steelbook. Just came out a couple of weeks ago, I believe. Get a good look at it there. Brand new. Picked it up from Walmart just for this occasion, and some lucky night timer out there is going to be getting this sucker mailed to you at the conclusion of this contest. And it's something I've had, in my mind, the back of my mind for quite some time. And I think I got it worked out. It was kind of a pain in the ass trying to figure it all out and how I was going to do it, but I think I got it worked out. So we're going to be going through all the details and explaining what you need to do to enter the contest to win this beautiful Creepshow Steelbook from our not friends, but from the fine folks at Scream Factory. We'll just go ahead and say that. But hope everybody's doing well out there. Everybody's had a good week. I know the last stream that we did, or that I did, we were talking about the future of the Monroeville Mall with the news this week of the closing of the Doubletree Hotel that sits, right across the street from the Monroeville Mall and is right next to the Monroeville Convention Center, which is in the process of being sold to Hobby Lobby. And once that news came down, the hotel pretty much ceased to exist. From that point on, they've already closed the hotel. They closed it Wednesday, 10 a.m. And during that stream, when we were talking about, what does this mean for the Monroeville Mall? Is this a domino effect that's going to, start with the convention center? It's already had an effect on the hotel. Is the mall next? Because, when you see, it's kind of like, it's like your house. If you're living, day to day, yada yada, they do, the neighborhood's fine. And all of a sudden you see your neighbor's house catch on fire, and then the neighbor across the street, their house is caught on fire, and all of a sudden you're starting to wonder, like, eesh, maybe I should maybe I should pack up and leave. Something's not right here. But there's been like a little bit of news since then that kind of shed a little more light on it. In the Monroeville Memories page on Facebook, which is just like a general, page for the citizens of Monroeville and people to share, memories of the town. So I think pretty much every town has one. I mean, even the smallest towns, there's people on Facebook, of course, that are, oh, I remember back in the good old days when we used to buy ice cream down at Farmer Fred's for a nickel. That type of page. But they had a little thread going on there about the hotel, and I guess one of the workers, somebody that was pretty close to the situation, got on there and kind of spilled their side of the story, and kind of saying that it really doesn't have anything to do with the convention center closing per se. It was more to do with the ownership of the hotel. Apparently, the ownership's been trying to sell that hotel for quite some time, and and if you've been to that hotel, you can kind of believe that this part's true. They were saying, they had no interest in investing the money that they were making from the hotel back into the hotel. Like, there were bills that were unpaid. Apparently it was a big mess, according to this, this person on Facebook who is, supposedly one of the workers there. I can believe that to an extent, but at the same time, reading that article, and another person was quoted, another employee of that hotel was quoted in that article from CBS News saying that about 60% of their business comes from that convention center, and that's very, very believable. especially for a hotel that big, that size. I mean, it's a pretty good sized hotel. So the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle, but I don't think there's any way to get around the fact that the convention center closing down and becoming a Hobby Lobby is going to have a negative effect on not just the hotel, but that entire area around there. But the mall is fine for now, thank God. Let's just let's be thankful for that. But um, but like I said, now's the best time to get your ass to Monroeville and visit that mall if you've never had the opportunity. Um, Something else weird happened this week. So here in Evansville, they have a smaller con, the Evansville Horror Con, and I went last year, and it was at the local armory, and it was a little, it was small. It's a smaller convention, not a lot of, it's not major names. Like they'll usually have like one big name, and then a bunch of, a bunch of smaller D-list, type of names there. Which this year they had Bam Margera, Jimmy Hart, Mouth of the South wrestling manager Jimmy Hart was there. Yeah, there were some interesting guests, but one that caught my attention when I saw that this convention was happening. Because like I said, I went last year, decided to go this year, and the one guest that I was well, there were two guests, but one of them they just erased from everything for whatever reason. Um, I, I 100% was planning on going to this convention with the intention of meeting Tony Moran again, and just to see how that would go. I'm fascinated by that. He's so out there and such a fuck up in so many ways that it's very interesting. I don't know. I'm just fascinated by people like that. But he just like disappeared. Like he was like on the guest list at one point, and then not the next. Um, but the other guy that was going to be there that I was pretty interested in was a guy by the name of Mark Dodson. Um, he is a voice actor and has been for many, many years for a lot of different things. He was a voice actor for Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, I believe. One of the newer Star Wars, Force Awakens, I believe. Gremlins 2. Pretty well respected voice actor, and he was kind of added last minute. But one of the big thing caught my attention was that he was the voice actor in Day of the Dead. Apparently, he did the moans and the groans of the zombies, specifically like Doctor Tongue. When you see Doctor Tongue, and he's got like the sound. That's apparently this Mark Dodson. That's a name I'm not really 100% familiar with. Like that was kind of a name I've never really heard before. He's uncredited in the film, which is probably one of the big reasons why. But I did a little research. I was like, yeah, this guy looks legit. I guess so I was interested in meeting him and asking him about Day of the Dead specifically. Did he get to interact with George or Richard Rubenstein um, or anybody on the crew? What was his memories of it? If he had any memory, just kind of pick a new brain. Like a guy I wasn't really on my radar until a week ago or so when I saw that he was going to be at this convention. And so we decided to go to the convention on Saturday yesterday. It was me, my fiance, and my daughter. She's not really a toddler anymore. She's 3, but like I swear, like every day she's 3 going on 13 or whatever. She's something else. So we decided to go to this convention, Evansville Horror Con. It's right down the road. They moved this year. Last year they were at the Armory, which is a smaller venue. This year they were downtown at the old National Events Center, which is a pretty good sized venue. I mean, they have quite a few, concerts and stuff there. So we decided to go, and I was going with, full intention of meeting Mark Dodson for, mainly, and to check out, the vendors and stuff like that. That's really why I like going to cons, is just checking out the vendors and stuff. Unless somebody, some Romero guest is going to be there that I'm just dying to meet, or even if I've met him 20 times, I just want to talk to him again. I have new questions to ask you, Mr. Gornick, that type of thing. So we go, and I'm walking around. I see the line of, guests. There's Bam Margera, Jimmy Hart. They're all there. Everybody's in a good mood. Everybody's signing. And I see I see the banner for Mark Dodson, but nobody's there. So I'm like, oh, I guess he's doing a panel, or he's in the restroom or something. So I don't know. I think of it, we walk around the vendors and we, look at things, and my daughter's like having fun, but at the same time, if she runs into, somebody cosplaying as, there was a guy there on stilts that was like 8 feet, 8, 9 feet tall, um, who's in like this, I don't know, killer clown get up or something. But anytime she saw him, she was like, I'm going the other fucking way. Like, turn around, back the other way. So that was fun. We walked around a few times and, just hung out. And I was just, as we're leaving, I'm looking, he's still not there. I'm like, okay, well, um, I guess he's busy or who knows what. Cause I mean, my fiance, not really her type of thing. So she was ready to go after, after so long. She was pretty much ready to go by when we first got there. But I kind of strong armed her into staying. It's just like, it's fine. We're not gonna be here long. I just want to, support the local con. But anyway, we leave, and I didn't think anything of it. Then I saw some rumblings on Facebook on the page, where people were talking about, where was Mark Dodson, and I guess his agent or his handler or manager, whatever you want to call him, was telling people like, oh yeah, me and Mark partied really hard last night, and he's kind of hungover, so he's not feeling too well, and all this. I'm like, oh well, that's I would fully expect that from somebody like Tony Moran, but I don't really know anything about Mark Dobson, Mark Dodson. So I mean, who knows? He probably had a rough night and having a good time. And then come to find out late last night, the promoter of the event, did a live on Facebook and broke the news that Mark Dodson had passed away that morning in his hotel room. From what I've heard, reported is a massive heart attack. So yeah, that's pretty. I mean, especially here recently with the whole David Emge thing going on and him passing away here in Evansville and going to his funeral and all that. It's just kind of, if you have anything to do with Dawn of the Dead or Romero or anything, like just stay away from Evansville because apparently it's not the place you want to be right now. Not good vibes. We'll just say that. But yeah, I guess he passed away yesterday morning. Really, really sad. I mean, he was only like 64 years old, I believe. Um, so really, really sad and kind of, you kind of leave like, oh, where the hell is he? And then you realize like, oh, it was just kind of a mind fuck a little bit when I found that out. But man, yeah, yeah, apparently passed away, massive heart attack yesterday morning in his hotel. I guess, I mean, I don't know if they were actually, partying. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. The night before, or if that was just something that his agent was telling people to kind of explain his absence. I don't know, but yeah, that's kind of a rough, especially a guy that you just kind of find out about that is connected to the Romero universe in some way, and maybe had a cool story that nobody's ever heard. I mean, it's a guy that I don't really never really seen talk about Romero too much. I mean, he was didn't have the biggest role or anything like that, but you never know. He may have had some kind of interaction with George or Richard Rubenstein or something that would be like, wow. So yeah, very sad, very unfortunate. So rest in peace, Mr. Dodson. Um, yeah, kind of sad. 64 years old. So yeah, that was kind of a rough, a rough thing to find out. You're going to meet the guy the day before, and then he's not there, and then you realize like, oh well, I guess that makes sense. Let's see who's in the house tonight. Grande, what's up, man? Good to see you. Got a new name in here, Ernie Big Nose. Hey, from Canada. What's up, man? Yes, R.I.P. Mark. That's crazy. But yeah, he did the voiceovers for like the Gremlins and Gremlins 1 and 2. Actually, I think I got his IMDb pulled up here just from earlier, just looking at it. Just looking at some of his work. Yeah, Return of the Jedi, Salacious Crumb. I know nothing about Star Wars. I've seen the first two of those movies, and I was like, they're fine movies, but it's nothing that I don't. I just it just never grabbed me like it grabbed most people, I guess. But um, Gremlins did voiceover work for Gremlins and Gremlins 2, of course. Darkwing Duck TV series did an episode of that. A lot of credits here. A lot of video game voiceover work, which I'm not a big video game guy, so I don't really know what a lot of these are. None of them are really jumping out at me. that I feel like I would know. Apparently, there's a movie called Head Cheese, the movie. He was the voice of Bubba, I guess. But yeah, yeah, dude had a very lengthy career. I guess the most recent thing he did, I guess, was a video game called Ghost Runner 2. I'm not too familiar with that, but that was just last year or so. So yeah, yeah, really, really heartbreaking shit. Um, Ernie Big Nose says Night of the Living Dead was the only black and white movie that ever scared me when I was a kid. I mean, yeah, I mean that's I fully believe it. I'm not sure how old you are, but I know at the time, like black and white was kind of on its way out. So when people went to see, the monster movie, it was usually like a double feature with, you know, something fairly benign, like one of the big monster movies or something like that. And I'm sure when people saw that, I mean, being in black and white, like the news was in black and white back in the day, so it just gave it that more gritty, like, um, you know, news reel feel, I guess. Um, and I mean, it does hold up. I mean, it is it. George would consider it his scariest movie, the scariest movie he ever made. But George never really considered most of the movies that he made scary. Um, but I tend to agree to an extent. Well, yeah, I guess I would agree. That's one you don't really want to watch late at night if you're not, lost in the sauce, as some of us are. Not your real name. Well, I assumed it wasn't, but I mean, I figured, that's a pretty clever name. I dig it. Ernie Big Nose. 45. Okay, so you're let's see, 45. So you've been born the year Dawn came out, so yeah, okay. Yeah, I wish I was old enough to go back to where I was like, alive when the movie first came out just to see the reactions to it. Especially like the gut munching scenes. People were not used to that back in the day. Definitely not in a mainstream movie. I wouldn't even say Night of the Living Dead's a mainstream movie, but it was a movie that, not a Herschel Gordon Lewis type of movie. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, yeah. So just wanted to share that story. It was kind of a weird happening this weekend. Um, but I guess we'll go ahead and get into what we're all here for tonight. Everybody wants to know how they can take this Steelbook 4K Scream Factory limited edition, all the other accoutrement that comes along with this, whatever. How can they get their hands on this? Well, I'm gonna let you know. Um, it's an awesome set. I kind of want to keep it, but I already own Creepshow in 4K, and I was just like, I don't really want Steelbook. But I mean, this would be a perfect thing for a contest or something. So we are in March Madness, or we are in March. So I mean, obviously, most people think of March Madness tournaments. Everybody loves brackets, and this year I want to try something new. This is actually what is the date? Pretty close to the 1 year anniversary of this channel, or not, maybe not this channel, but me actually coming on this channel and showing my big fucking ugly face and babbling about George Romero for hours and hours on end for the trolls out there like you guys watching that actually want to sit up and listen to me babble about this shit. Um, so yeah, it's been about a year, and I've never really done I did a live auction last summer. That was fun. I really enjoyed doing that. I've never really done any type of giveaway or any type of contest or anything. So I figure, what better time to have a contest than here in March? We'll have a little March Madness uh, bracket challenge, I guess we'll just call it. And so what the bracket's going to be, there's going to be 16 films, which really works out because Romero, in terms of like feature length directed films, did 16 feature length directed films. So this year, what I'm going to do is here for March Madness, we're going to have a 16 team tournament or 16 film tournament or a team, whatever you want to call it. And the 16 teams will consist of all of George's films throughout his filmography, from Night of the Living Dead all the way through to Survival of the Dead in 2010. And the films are seeded according to their IMDb scores. I thought about, how do I want to do it? Do I want to kind of go don't want to seed them by my own personal rankings, but I kind of want to distance myself away from this as much as possible and not give my input, because the way that this is going to work out, there's going to be voting that takes place every day starting May the 10th at 8 a.m. A new matchup every day for round one, and it's going to be on the community page here on the channel. You'll see it. Just cast your vote for which film that you think, however you want to cast it. I don't want to really wall in people into how to vote or what why they're voting for something. Your favorite movie out of the two, or the movie that you think is better than the other. However you want to vote, just cast a vote, and we're going to single elimination tournament, whittle it down over the month of March, and then when the finals take place, what's the date I got? Finals will take place. So here are the tentative dates for all the matchups for you to vote on. In the community section here on the page. So starting March the 10th, which is a week from now, so Sunday. Starting March the 10th, we're going to whittle it down. Round one, 8 different matchups between the 16 different films in the filmography of George A. Romero. You vote for whichever one you think is better, or the one that you think is your favorite, or really vote for the one that you think, however, is going to work for your bracket. Let's say you fill out your bracket and you have, film A beating film B. But even if you think that film B is a better film than film A, but you think film A is going to get more votes, and you put that on your bracket, and you vote for film A. However you want to vote, whatever. So starting March 10th, next Sunday, 8 a.m., the first matchup will drop. And then in round one, there'll be a 24-hour voting period. And then every 24 hours, every day at 8 a.m., there will be a new matchup up for vote. So that'll be March 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. So a whole week of matchups. Then we whittle it down to a 48-hour voting period, where every 48 hours we will vote for another one, starting March 18th through the 24th. The semifinals, round 3, take place from March 25th to March 27th, and then the final vote will get a week-long voting block from March 31st through April 5th. And then to explain how this is going to work, I'll go ahead and go through the steps here of how to submit your bracket, how to fill out your bracket and submit it. You have to submit your bracket into the contest for an opportunity to win the brand new Steelbook 4K of Creepshow. To submit, you'll need to sign up. There'll be a link down here. I'm going to post links everywhere. There's going to be links in the community section. There'll be links. I'll be putting on Facebook, on the different groups. So I'm going to try to get as many people as possible involved in this. But if you're watching this video right now and you want to go ahead and submit your bracket, there down in the description below are the rules and how to go in and fill out a bracket and submit it. There's a link down below. You copy and paste that link into your web browser. The password is going to be alpha88. You put in the password, and it takes you to or you'll click on join the league or whatever, join league, and you'll do that. You'll set up an account. You'll need like your email address, your name, date of birth. You create, just basically create an account so you can, fill out your bracket and your information's there. So if you do happen to win, I can contact you and get your shipping address for the prize or whatnot. So yeah, you'll go in, you'll click, you'll create your bracket, hit submit, it goes straight to me, and that's all you got to do. And you can actually go and adjust your bracket if you change your mind on certain things. You can adjust and change your bracket all the way up until the day of the first, until the tournament starts, the day of the first matchup. So March the 10th. So the rules of this sucker, how we're going to determine how these brackets work. Every matchup, there's a point system in place. So round one, for every correct guess that you have for round one, it's going to be worth 1 point. For round two, it'll be worth 2 points. For round 3, 4 points, and for the finals, for the championship round and round 4, that'll be worth a whopping 10 points. So And whoever has the most points at the end of the contest will be declared the winner, and will be shipped a copy of the brand new 4K Steelbook of Creepshow. I'm saying it so many goddamn times tonight. I think you guys already know what it is. I'll just say the Creepshow movie. Now, if there's a tie at the end, like let's say that there's multiple people with the same amount of points, those names will be entered into kind of thrown in a hat, and I'm going to pick them out of a hat or at random. No, I mean, maybe not literally. I'm not going to pull it out of a hat literally, but it'll be chosen at random, and then that person will win the contest and win the prize. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get into the bracket and the matchups, and kind of discuss. I'll try to make a case for each film. I mean, some of these are going to be pretty fucking obvious which one's going to win. I'll try to make some kind of, some kind of argument for it. We'll just talk about, the pros and cons of each one and whatnot. So here is the bracket for this tournament. Let me pull this up. There we go. And like I said, these are seeded 1 through 16 by their IMDb ratings. I don't necessarily agree with these seedings, but like I said, I want to make this as impartial as possible. I'm just kind of here to write the rules and count the votes, basically, count the points. But if you can see here, let me see if I got. So the seedings are as follows. See, looking at the matchups here, so it's really. Let me see if I can. There we go. Now I can see what the hell I'm looking at. So in round 1, your matchups are the number 1 seed, Dawn of the Dead from 1978, going head to head with George's final film, the 16 seed, Survival of the Dead from 2010. Let's see. I'll do that after this. I'll just go ahead and read off the bracket here, and then we'll look at them individually and get you guys' thoughts, and I'll give my thoughts. The 8 seed of Land of the Dead going head to head with the 9 seed of The Crazies. That's an interesting one. That'll be interesting to see where that one goes. The 5 seed of Creepshow versus the 12 seed Season of the Witch. 4 seed Martin versus 13 seed Diary of the Dead. The 3 seed Day of the Dead versus 14 seed Bruiser from 2000. 6 seed Night Riders versus the 11 seed The Dark Half. That'll be an interesting one because I hear more and more people putting The Dark Half over these days. So that'll be interesting to see how it turns out. I would guess that Night Riders would come out on top in that one, but you never know. This is another interesting one. The 7 seed Monkey Shines versus the 10 seed Two Evil Eyes. And then the 2 seed Night of the Living Dead versus 15 seed There's Always Vanilla. So that's kind of interesting. It's some of these I really don't know. Some of these, a couple of these, I don't know where they're going, but a lot of these, especially here in round 1, this is kind of a gimme. I mean, obviously, Dawn of the Dead's probably going to beat Survival of the Dead. Night of the Living Dead's probably going to beat There's Always Vanilla. But it's kind of like in the real, NCAA March Madness tournament. You're going to have your 1 seed versus your 16 seed. Odds are the 1 seed's going to mop the floor with that 16 seed. But you never know. The argument's always like, well, can they keep it within 20? That'll be the interesting part. Is how close can some of these matchups stay? Because we'll go ahead and get into it, and we'll just look at these individually. But so the first matchup, 1 seed Dawn of the Dead, 1978 versus 16 seed Survival of the Dead, 2010. I'm very curious to see if Survival of the Dead gets 1 vote in this contest. That's the contest to me. Will Survival of the Dead get 1 vote against Dawn of the Dead? And I've said before, Survival of the Dead as a 16 seed, I kind of agree with. Survival of the Dead's probably my second least favorite Romero film. It's really a toss-up between that and Two Evil Eyes, to be honest, for me. But at the same time, it's George's final film. there is some stuff in Survival of the Dead that I do like, but man, you're going up against the fucking powerhouse of all powerhouses here in this tournament and Dawn of the Dead. So like I said, this is probably going to be an easy point for everybody who enters this contest. Um, but it'll be interesting to see if Survival of the Dead even gets a vote, or B, if they can keep it close. I don't think they will, but it's kind of like Kentucky as the 1 seed going up against 16 seed, you know, Western Kentucky University or something. I don't know. I don't. I'm not a big basketball guy, but I do know Kentucky. So yeah, that's your first matchup. That'll be kind of I'm guessing that'll be a real bloodbath. And then down here you got the 2 seed of Night of the Living Dead 1968 versus the 15 seed There's Always Vanilla 1971. This will be interesting because they're so close together. Obviously this is another one where you think obviously Night of the Living Dead will probably run away with this one. But I do really enjoy There's Always Vanilla. I've said that many times on this stream and on this channel. I've talked a lot about There's Always Vanilla and how much I've always enjoyed that film for what it is. I mean, George, I don't even think was a big fan of There's Always Vanilla. So, but I think from what I've heard, like he went back and rewatched it, closer to the end of his life, and he kind of found an appreciation for it. So that's interesting to hear. But I've always been a fan of There's Always Vanilla, but there's a lot of good in there. The performances from Ray Lane and Judy Ridley, that was kind of her last film performance. I don't know. I love that. I like a lot of the dialogue. Of course, the film was written by Rudy Ritchie. George is credited as a director, but he really says that it's more of a film that he edited, as opposed to directed. And I think that's another big reason that I love George, the editor. I love George's editing. I always have. I think that's his strong suit. Like I think that's what he was best at, was his editing. And you really see it. And There's Always Vanilla. It's a very interesting film. It's very different. Horror fans are probably not big fans. If you're a fan of the zombie stuff, you're probably not a big fan. But it is an interesting film, and there's a lot of good dialogue and some interesting points, and different things in there. But yeah, you're going up against Night of the Living Dead. I mean, one of the greatest horror films ever made, the most iconic horror film. I mean, we were just talking a second ago with old Ernie Big Nose, talking about how terrifying Night of the Living Dead was back in the day, and how it holds up to this day, and how terrifying it still is. So that's probably going to be another easy point for most people. But yeah, luck of the draw. Luck of the draw. Then we got the number 3 seed Day of the Dead 1985 versus 14 seed Bruiser from 2000. Now this is one that I don't expect to be too close. But for me, it is closer than probably most people, because I love Bruiser. I think I really really enjoy Bruiser. Again, the performances in Bruiser I think are really great. It was just such a breath of fresh air to see George going back to his indie roots and just doing something small, even though it was the first film that he did in Canada, outside of Pittsburgh. It still just had that indie spirit to it that George had in the 70s and the early 80s. And then of course he started doing studio stuff and got lost in developmental hell in the 90s, and then came out on the other end, persevered, came out on the other end with Bruiser. And Bruiser's one that I think people are going to start talking about that a little more and appreciating it a little more once we finally get either a Blu-ray or a 4K release of it at some point. I think when people can go back and rewatch it, because right now all you got is the VHS and the DVD here in the States. I think there's a Blu-ray over in Germany, but it's out of print now, and it's pretty hard to find because I've looked. But I think it's one that's going to find its appreciation when the new release of it comes out. I don't know if that's in the works. I've heard rumblings from different people that is a very big possibility. But as of right now, I don't see it. It's one that it may keep it somewhat close with Day of the Dead, but I highly doubt it. I think it just depends on who's voting and but even me, I again, it's Day of the Dead. It's what I've called Romero's The Thing. Like if Dawn of the Dead or well, Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead is Romero's Halloween, then Day of the Dead is Romero's The Thing. I mean the effects work in Day of the Dead alone is still to this day some of the best in film history, in my opinion. The great performances, the stories, I mean, the characters, Captain Rhodes, Bub, Dr. Logan. Um, Again, very quotable. It's just a fantastic movie. Great, great movie. It's going to be hard to beat Day of the Dead, especially here in round one. So, again, probably another easy point. That one's probably going to go to Day of the Dead, but you can't argue with that one. Then we got the number 4 seed, Martin from 1977 versus the 13 seed Diary of the Dead in 2008. Grande, if you're still in here, this is one I would love your take on because I know you're a big fan of Diary of the Dead. Um, do you hold it in as high of an esteem as you do Martin? I don't know if I've really heard you really go into too much detail on your opinions on Martin, but for me, Martin is my second favorite film of all time. It's one that I'm just I love Martin so much about it. Um, so this is one that I feel like is um, probably going to go the way of Martin, but at the same time, like I said, just depends on who you are and how you vote. If you're a huge zombie fan, maybe you like Diary of the Dead more than Martin. Diary of the Dead, there's a lot of good Diary of the Dead. I think it's one of those films that I think George had the right ideas. George was onto something with Diary of the Dead. I just think maybe some of the execution of the film, just because they had such a small budget and such a limited shooting schedule, I think they only shot for less than a month on that. So I think it just comes down to a matter of time and money for George for Diary of the Dead. But but I do think there's a lot of good to it. And like I said, I think George had a really had his finger on the pulse of something because you look at us now. I mean, back then it was just kind of like, oh yeah, everything's going to hell, and you're going to stop and pick up a video camera to film it. Yeah, right. And look at us now. Like that's all we fucking do. If we see somebody getting mauled by a fucking polar bear or a fucking riot happening or anything, our first instinct now as a people is to pull out our cell phones, record it, and then upload it online. YouTube, Facebook, whatever, Facebook Live, whatever you do. And that's what we're doing now. And George kind of saw that coming because back when 2008 Diary of the Dead came out, um, YouTube was still fairly new. MySpace was still a big thing. They had a MySpace competition, I remember, for Diary of the Dead, where people could submit their little short, videos online, and they included a few of them on the DVD of Diary of the Dead. So at the time, it was just kind of like, oh well, I don't feel like George understands how this works. You can't just shoot something and then just upload it to the internet immediately and blah blah blah. But no, like that's kind of what we did, That's kind of how we are now. Like that's if the zombie apocalypse was happening, our first instinct would not be to grab a fucking gun or a machete or a knife or a bat or anything else. We'd pick up our phones and be like, "Whoa, check this out! I'm putting a Facebook Live, World Star." That's who we are now, and George was ahead of the curve on that. Like I said, the movie has its flaws, and it's to me, it's mostly in some of the performances. I think there are a couple of the performances in this film that are really, really bad. That kind of take you out of it. Um, some of the dialogue is a little, especially like the overdub dialogue from the main female character. Some of that's a little too on the nose, a little too you know corny, I guess. Um, And then, like I said, some of the effects, there's a little bit of bad CGI in it, but overall, I mean, for the budget that they had, and I mean the fact that movie made pretty good amount of money, especially on DVD, um, which is interesting enough, and that's why they gave them the money to make Survival of the Dead. Um, So it was a success. I mean, it definitely it made its money back and a profit. Um, but at the same time, there's just a lot. There's just too much of it there that just doesn't work for me. Um, that going up against Martin, I don't think that it stands a chance. Not in my mind, because Martin, to me, Martin's damn near fled. That's George's favorite film that he made. His favorite film that he ever made was Martin. Um, and I think it's a brilliant, brilliant film. Not just a brilliant horror film, but just a brilliant indie film of the 70s, you know. So again, maybe an easy point on that one. Martin will probably run away with it, but we'll see. We'll see. What you never know. It's March Madness. You never know when an upset might occur. So we move on to seed number 5, Creepshow from 1982, going head to head with the 12 seed Season of the Witch from 1972, aka Hungry Wives, aka Jack's Wife. It's funny when you think of those first like 4 films of Romero's. There's so many different titles because when the distributors for those films, like if they put it out in theaters and it didn't immediately make a shit ton of money, their first thought is, well, it's the title. We got to change the title and come up with a new poster. People aren't interested in, Hungry Wise. That's not selling. So let's call it Season of the Witch. Or oh, there's always vanilla. That doesn't make any sense. Let's just call it The Affair. Or it may have been vice versa. I can't remember if it was The Affair and then there's always vanilla or what, but I think it was The Affair first. I'm not sure. So the distributor that George was working with at the time would just like retitle it, put a new poster out, and just keep putting it out and see if anything stuck. Um, but this is an interesting one. Creepshow, I think, is a very popular film, very popular amongst Romero fans and horror fans alike. It's one of the classic horror films of all time. It's it just recently, I don't know if you guys heard, but it just recently got a brand new 4K Steelbook release from Screen Factory. Um, But anyway, but it's going head to head against the 12 seed of Season of the Witch from 1972. And Season of the Witch is one of those films that, to me, kind of like in the same vein as Bruiser, I think people are starting to discover it more and more ever since it got that Arrow Blu-ray release from the Between Night and Dawn box set. But you can get it individually too. It's fairly cheap. If you go, where have I seen it? I know on eBay you can sometimes find them for as low as $12, $13. But it's one that, with the cleanup and a new transfer, really looks good. The sound is better. You can hear great dialogue. I've said it a billion times that I think Season of the Witch is George's best dialogue. It's technically the first film that George made where he was the sole the sole screenwriter on it, because like I said, There's Always Vanilla. Rudy Ritchie was the writer for There's Always Vanilla, and then Night of the Living Dead was George and John Russo. So it was more of a collaborative thing, which, you know, so Season of the Witch was kind of George's first, sole credit as, the sole screenwriter. And I think it's some of his best dialogue, just some of the scenes, like, the scene with Ray Lane and Muffley, where, he's turning her on for the first time and he's making her think she's smoking a joint, but she's just smoking, a torn cigarette that's rolled to make, look like a joint. And just, what's being said in this film. There's many layers to the film in terms of, um, in terms of the theme of the whole thing. But, the title Season of the Witch, I think Jack's Wife was probably the perfect title for that film. But again, like, the distributor probably heard Jack's Wife and they're like, nobody's going to watch it. Nobody know what the fuck that means. It sounds like a daytime soap opera or a drama or something like that, or made for TV drama. So they tried Hungry Wives to try to make people, think that, it was, I guess kind of like a softcore porn or something like that, which it's absolutely not. And Season of the Witch, I mean, I guess it fits a little better, and they do have the Donovan song in there, Season of the Witch, so that's pretty cool. So it works, I guess. I do prefer Jack's Wife. I think it's a better title for it, but they did try to sell it more as a horror film, but it's not so much. But going head to head against Creepshow here, I think Creepshow is probably going to pull this one out fairly easily. But again, like I said, for me, it's closer than probably for most people. Because as much as I love Creepshow, I just find every time I watch Season of the Witch, I like it more and more. So we'll see. That brings us to the next matchup: 6 seed Knight Riders versus 11 seed Dark Half from 1993. This one will be interesting. I think a lot of the subscribers to this channel are while some are just fans of film in general, probably a lot of them are mostly fans of George for, I mean, I assume, for his zombie stuff and his horror stuff. And I don't know if a lot of them have even seen Knight Riders. I hear that a lot. I'm just kind of blown away by it. I'm like, oh wow, you haven't seen Knight Riders? I love Knight Riders. I think that's maybe, all things considered, George's best executed film, in my opinion. Just from the story aspect and the characters and the way that it plays out, and the stunt work in it. I mean, it's incredible. I love Knight Riders, and The Dark Half to me, not my favorite Romero film, but it's another one that I've kind of grown on. I've grown to like a little bit more, um, especially since the last time I watched it. I've come to appreciate it a little bit more. But to me, it's one of those that I just, it doesn't feel like a George film. It doesn't feel like a Romero film. It feels like a good Stephen King adaptation, as opposed to a good Romero film, I guess is the best way I can put it. Um, Especially, considering a lot of the lower budget adaptations of Stephen King stuff that we saw around that time period. It's not Misery or Stand by Me or anything like that, but I think, in terms of just like Stephen King's horror adaptations, I think The Dark Half is a pretty damn good one. I think George is very proud of the work that he did on that. I don't know if I've ever really heard Steven's opinion about it, or what he really thought of the film, but uh, I just I like it more and more. But man, going up against Knight Riders, I think Knight Riders runs away with that one. Then it brings us to the 7 seed Monkey Shines from 1988 versus the 10 seeded Two Evil Eyes from 1990. And I mentioned earlier, Two Evil Eyes is probably at the very bottom of my favorite Romero films. But Monkey Shines is Monkey Shines is just one that I liked a lot the first time I saw it, but over time it's just not one that I really ever want to go back and revisit very often at all. Um, when I do, it's just kind of like, it's effective. George did a good job on this, working with, the monkey and the concept and all that. Um, so this is one that'll be interesting to see how people vote. I think Monkey Shines is probably the favorite, obviously, looking at the seedings, but I've heard a lot of people, I've heard a lot of love for Two Evil Eyes here lately. I know Robert Dobbins, friend of the channel, has mentioned all the time how much he loves Two Evil Eyes. So that'll be interesting. That'll be an interesting contest there. Um, and then our final matchup to break down here is the 8 seeded Land of the Dead from 2005 versus the 9 seed The Crazies from 1973. This one will be interesting. I don't know which way this one's going to go. I mean, this is your typical 8 versus 9 seed, and yeah, it's just going to be interesting because I know Land of the Dead gets love, and I think to me I feel like it's gotten more love over the years. Um, but the Crazies, I know a lot of people love the Crazies. For me personally, I would go with the Crazies. I like the Crazies more, but it's very close. I mean, this is kind of the seeding wise, like 8, 9 seed right there in the middle. I think that's where these films would be for me. But I think personally, I'd probably switch them, and I'd take the Crazies. I just think the Crazies are so much there, and especially after what we went through with COVID and experiencing all that shit, and how the government, just seeing firsthand how the government handles situations like that in the Crazies. You see, like, George was, he saw this years ahead. Like he understood, like, oh, if anything ever happens and shit hit the fan in this country, you know, don't bank on the government being able to figure the shit out and handle things properly. That's pretty much a running theme throughout most of Romero's stuff, but it really hits home in the Crazies, and some of the dialogue and just some of the, like, the interaction between between the Richard France character and the military, and just the ambiguous nature of that film, because you don't know You don't know who's crazy and who isn't, whether they're acting a certain way because they got the bug, or if they're acting a certain way because they're in the middle of this insane situation where the small town is being quarantined and they're being rounded up and forced into these, I guess, encampment areas and like the high school gym with all these other people that you don't know if they're crazy or not. And the government, I mean, there's so much going on there in the crazies. But Day of the Dead is one that I hold very near and dear to my heart. It's one that I really really enjoy. I think there's a lot of really good stuff in Land of the Dead. Dennis Hopper is one of my all-time favorite actors, so it was awesome seeing him in a Romero film. And I remember so much. I guess a lot of my love for Land of the Dead is more nostalgia than anything else because it was the first Romero film that I ever saw in a theater, and it was one that I was just looking forward to for years and years and years. And I think I saw it like 3 times in the theater while it was out. And and like I said, over the years, I think it holds up well. Um, and it's a perfect example of George getting the most out of the budget and the situation that he's handed. Because Land of the Dead looks like a $50 million movie. Um, it really, really does. I mean, and the fact that it was only that they shot that for 16, 17 million, which is like half of what Zack Snyder had to do the Dawn remake, is insane to me because it looks so much bigger. There's the scope of it is so much more. And it's just a perfect example of George's ability to get the most out of the least, which is what he did his entire career. That's how he became successful. That's how he became George A. Romero. He kind of showed many filmmakers the way to get the most out of what you got in your situation. And, it does you don't have to have a huge budget to make a good film. And I think that was and you don't have to be in Hollywood to make a good film, or just make a film make a film period. Um, hey, we're in Pittsburgh. There's stories to be told here in Pittsburgh, and they tell them. Not every film has to be set in New York or L.A. Like that's one thing that I'm just so goddamn tired of seeing. Like when I go see a movie and it's like, oh, it's set in New York, and it's like most people do not identify with that at all. So if you can tell a story somewhere like Pittsburgh and everything around Pittsburgh to make fans like me love Pittsburgh the way that we do, and everything around it. Braddock, I love Braddock. It's such dumb, but there's such a history there. There's so much to it. I'm interested in it. Monroeville and everything around. You make that area. To me, that's my Hollywood. Like that's where I go and visit. The sets of all my favorite movies. So the fact that George kind of did that, was kind of one of the first to do that, to say, oh, you don't have to be in Hollywood to make a good film. I think that just opened the door for everything. That and Easy Rider, probably in the '70s, were probably the two big ones that kind of opened the door for indie film. But anyway, I just got off on a completely different tangent there. But yeah, Land of the Dead crazies. I'd probably go crazy, but that's gonna be a toss up right there. I really don't know which way that one's gonna go. So that'll be really interesting to see. So there it is. Your last look at the bracket. Like I said, go down below in the description. The link is there. I think you have to copy and paste it into your URL for it to take you there. And then you'll sign up for the site with all your information. The password for the bracket is Alpha88, capital A LPHA 88. And then you'll be able to go in, fill out your bracket, hit submit, and then over the course of this month, we're going to be voting here on the channel. All of you guys will be deciding the winners of this. Basically, I will have nothing to do with it. And so yeah, let me go ahead and knock this off. So yeah, the seeding. And there's some interesting. It'd be interesting to see rounds 2 and 3 what we get, because those are going to be the ones that are going to be tough to call. Creepshow versus Creepshow versus Martin. That would be pretty interesting to see how that one would turn out. But yeah, so there it is. Like I said, directions and links and all that are down in the description. I'll be posting another one um, on the community page here with all the information, the rules, and how it's, it'll everything will be explained there. And like I said, one lucky person will win this brand new 4K Steelbook limited edition release. I really started that limited edition release of Creepshow on 4K. It's 4K and Blu-ray. So if you don't have a 4K player, it doesn't have the Blu-ray player. And I'm guessing it's going to be the same exact transfer from the Scream Factory 4K release that they just put out not too long ago. I think it was like less than a year ago. I mean, it has to be. I think I did a review of it on my channel. So yeah, it's been less than a year, but that one looks amazing. So I mean, the transfer looks really good. So if you haven't seen it yet, if you haven't picked it up yet, this is your perfect time. It's not going to cost you a dime. You ain't got to do a damn thing. Just go in, use the link, create an account, fill out your bracket, submit it. That's all you got to do, and then just come back when the polls are up and you can actually vote on the winners. Make sure you do that, or this isn't going to work. I'll just have to pick something out of a hat. Let's see. 1911 Guitar Dude, what's up, man? Checking in late. Love Creepshow and Season of the Witch. Isn't far behind for me either. I think Season of the Witch was the build up for Martin. That's a really good point. I totally agree with that. There's so much. There's so much connecting Season of the Witch and Martin there for me. I 100% agree with that. Just in terms of George's style and and really like the settings, like some of the design, like the houses that they used, were very very similar. Let's see. Okay, so we got one contestant in already. 1911 Guitar Dude filled in the bracket. Be fun to see how it plays out. Thanks for putting this together. No worries, man. Like I said, I've been meaning to do something like this for a while, just to have a little bit of fun. I mean, 24, like I mentioned earlier, finding out that Mark Dodson passed away. 2024 has been kind of a shitty year. I mean, from David Emge's passing, we find out Mike Tersick has passed, and now we find out Mark Dodson is away from massive heart attack suddenly. It's just kind of like, Jesus Christ, can we get a break? It's like, I feel like 2024 is already on the road to being another 2020. Maybe not, and then and God forbid we have another pandemic or whatever. But yeah, I'm not off to a good start. So I wanted to do something kind of fun, and like I said, just kind of do a giveaway for the first time, and just have a little contest here, have some fun. It is March Madness after all, and I don't know too much about basketball. Like I said, I know Kentucky basketball. I grew up in Kentucky, and that's just kind of a rite of passage. So I'm a UK fan, born and bred, but outside of that, I don't know dick all about college basketball. I used to know a little more than I do now, but so this would be something fun for nerds like us who love George and love horror, and it's a chance to to win something. I don't know. But yeah, it should be fun. Appreciate you joining in already. But yeah, I don't have too much else to talk about tonight. I'll probably cut this a little short. We'll get the contest rolling here. We'll have a week to submit your brackets. Like I said, the final day to submit will be next. It'll be Sunday morning, so that'll be when the first poll goes out. So get them filled out, submitted. Like I said, you can adjust them or change them if you change your mind on anything, all the way up until next Sunday. So looking forward to seeing next weekend. I've got a big stream coming up next weekend. I'm really excited. Going to have a guest on here, a buddy of mine, Paul. He has a YouTube channel called Paul Synth / Drums, and he does a lot of drum covers and showing off a lot of. I mean, his Dawn of the Dead collection is insane. I'm very envious of a lot of the shit that he has. So he's going to be joining me next weekend, next Saturday, and we're going to be talking all things Romero soundtracks. So everything from Goblin to Donald Rubinstein to John Harrison, everything in between. We're going to be talking about it next weekend. That'll be next Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Sounds of the Dead with Paul Synth/Drums. And I'll have a link for his channel. And like, seriously, go check it out. I mean, he's a really good musician, and I love checking out his videos, his drum covers of the different Goblin tracks from Dawn of the Dead, and even stuff that's not Dawn of the Dead, and just all kinds of cool shit on there. So check him out. He'll be joining me next weekend, next Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time next weekend, talking all things Romero soundtracks. Which is a stream I've been meaning to do for a while. I've been listening to a lot of them here lately. Picking up that Vampire release from Goblin, the soundtrack for Vampire. Been listening to that on like fucking repeat. Like I love that soundtrack. I know it's not music specifically composed for the film, but just that collection of Goblin just works so well for me. So I've been listening to that a lot lately. So I don't know. Look, I'm just looking forward to getting into talking about some of the soundtracks to Romero stuff, because it's something I really haven't covered too much. And Paul is a guy I feel like is going to fill us in on a lot of the stuff that I don't know. So that'll be fun. That'll be cool. And we'll talk about whatever else too. So, but yeah, that's next weekend, next Saturday. So yeah, get your brackets filled out and submitted, and let the contest begin. This bad boy's up for grabs. And like I said, it's a perfect opportunity if you didn't pick up the 4K release that Scream Factory did earlier this year, or last year, I guess. Now this would be the perfect opportunity. So yeah, like I said, the link and stuff's down in the description below. The rules and everything are down there as well. If you have any questions or anything, just feel free to shoot me a comment down below. And if you have any issues, let me know as well. I'll try to figure it out. But looking forward to the contest. Hope you guys enjoy it. Hope you guys have a lot of fun with it. And may the best man win. But I'm gonna hop off here for tonight. I appreciate all you guys in the chat. Good to see Ernie Big Nose for the first time in here. Hope it's not the last. 1911 Guitar Dude as well. Grande, always a pleasure to connect with you, sir. We'll have to do another stream here soon. So yeah. Until next. I said that twice. I'm like Tommy 2 times. So yeah. Until next weekend, next Saturday, we'll be rocking and rolling until then. I got one last comment here. Just came in from 1911 Guitar Dude. Looking forward to the soundtrack live stream. It's a huge topic for me. I've been listening to the Vampire soundtrack recently too, and it's awesome. Yes, it is, sir. I'm glad you're able to pick that up. So yeah, I'll look forward to getting your opinion on things next week as well. So yeah, get your brackets in. You got a week to do it, and once it's closed down next weekend, the games will begin, and we will decide. Us, the fans, will decide what is George A. Romero's best film. It's a big topic, but we're gonna figure it out. So yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Until next weekend, I appreciate you, and as always, stay scared. Night, everybody.